What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. So I have a super awesome video for you today. Really excited to make it. Obviously this video is going to be geared towards the 05 to 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee owners. If you saw my last video, you knew that I picked up a 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I was playing around with some lighting. I want to do the headlights in the worst way, but it's a lot of money at the moment. So I decided to do something with the fog lights. I love messing with lighting. I love seeing what I can fit where, and I'm so glad that this actually worked. So we're just gonna jump right into it. Basically, in a matter of minutes, I'm gonna show you how to go from this massive factory housing to a Diode Dynamics SS3 fitted in the stock bracket with zero modifications. So, you know me, I just get right into it, but I am going to do a little bit of talking before I show you the hack, I guess. It's not really a hack, but we'll just call it a hack. So, why didn't I go with Morimoto? Obviously, Morimoto is the only company out there at the moment that makes a direct plug-and-play kit for our Jeeps. I'm just not happy with the output. I've never ran them, but based on things I've read and pictures and things like that, I'm just, for 200 bucks, they're not that impressive. As far as, looks, they're clean, they look good. As far as output's concerned, they have a great cutoff, they're just not bright. And they look good, but I'm just not a fan of them. And for 200 bucks, it's just, I guess you're just paying for the ease, right? You're replacing this thing with a decent light, and no modifications. But me, I decided to go a different route because that's what I do. That is my reasoning for not going with Morimoto, mainly because I'm just not happy with the output. So that is how we ended up with a Diode Dynamics SS3 here. So this is the Pro Series. The only reason why I went with the Pro Series is because they had a Black Friday sale, and for an extra 50 bucks I said, why the heck not, I'll try out the Pros. I ran the Sports on my Ram. I had no complaints. They were bright, as bright as my headlights. So I figured the Pros are going to be even better, and I can't wait to check them out. So we're going to take a closer look at how exactly I did this, and how you can also do it in literally a matter of minutes. Now real quick, why did I go with Diode Dynamics? So I was brainstorming things in my head and trying to figure out what will work in the factory bracket, because obviously I wanted to retain the bracket so that way it fits just like OEM. You got your two T25 torque screws here. So that was the biggest thing. I wanted to retain the factory bracket. So with some measurements, with going online and looking up all the pods from all the major manufacturers, so I looked up the specs for Baja Designs, Diode Dynamics obviously, lace fit, and then rigid. Diode Dynamics was the only company that made this this round bezel, and that was the other thing. All right, obviously the holes in the bumper are round, so I wanted to find a pod that has basically this exact pod, so that way it doesn't look goofy in the bumper. This looks like it belongs in there. All right, a standard square pod it just looks out of place. So here's a comparison. All right, so I believe the diameter of the Diode Dynamics is 4 inches. The factory one, I don't really remember. I believe it was 4.5. Yep, 4.5. So we're a half an inch smaller in diameter with the Diode Dynamics, but obviously, as you can tell in that picture, it looks just fine. So this fits really good, and obviously with the round bezel, it just looks like it's supposed to be in there. So that is pretty much the only reason why I went with Diode Dynamics, because they were the only ones that made you know, obviously this round bezel here, with the proper depth and width to fit in the factory bracket. So with that out of the way, let's get into this. Let's swap this light out for the SS3. Alright guys, so first thing you're going to want to do is get this adjuster screw out. And I believe it is a T20. Yep. So the adjuster screw is a T20. And then pivot the light down so that way you can pull the screw and the spring out. Set it aside and then grab a little flat bladed tool to pop the housing out of the bracket. Bend it just like that. Set that aside, and now here we have the bracket. Alright guys, now before we drop our SS3 into our bracket, there's some things that we got to go over first, and that's hardware. So I guess obviously you see the plethora of washers. This is the only way that I could make this work with what I had on hand. I had all this hardware out in the garage, and I'm going to show you why all these washers are required. So you can see here, the bracket is wider than the light. Not a huge deal. Like I said, I've got 6 washers on each side to make up the difference. All right, and it works great. It works. It works. All right, and head on, you don't see the washers at all. So obviously, from the back side you see them, but nobody looks at the back side. If you have a way to make some spacers, something like this, that is definitely the preferred method in my opinion. You know, just cleaner, easier to install the screws. You're not messing with a bunch of washers. Yeah, so I wish I had a way to make spacers instead of washers, but like I said, you know, I was just brainstorming a way to make this work, and this is what I had out in the garage to make it work. It works fine, but you know, I'm pretty particular, and I wish that I had a way to use spacers instead. Like I said, I haven't even looked it up yet. I haven't even asked around to see if, you know, I can get spacers made. So, you know, this is sort of in the prototype stages, if you will, even though I'm not really inventing anything here. I'm just trying to make something work out of nothing. So, with that out of the way, let me get you some measurements of the washers that you need, so that way when you go to the hardware store, you're not going in blind, unless you are someone who has the ability to make a spacer. So for those of you who don't have the ability to make a spacer, let me give you some measurements here with a tape measure that's not ideal for measuring things like this. So it looks like we're 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and 1/8 inch thick washer. All right, so 3/4 in diameter, 1/8 inch thick, and you're going to want 28 of these washers. All right, 6 on each side for both lights, and then 4 for your bolts. All right, because the hole on the bracket is pretty wide, so you're going to want to make sure you got a nice big washer in there so that's not pulling through and it's in there securely. Now, for bolts, the supplied hardware for your SS3 will not work, unfortunately. Luckily, like I said, I've got hardware coming out of my ears in the garage. I had some bolts from a light bar that I had many moons ago, and I guess I must have never used these bolts to mount it. So luckily, I had nuts and bolts to make this work. Unfortunately, I don't have a direct link for these bolts and nuts, but I did see on Amazon that they do have light bar mounting kits that looks like come with bolts of this size and also nuts. So I suggest picking that up on Amazon. I think it was like $8.99 or $10.99 or something like that. Pretty cheap. And hopefully, you know, it's got the size bolts that will work for this project. For those of you who have the ability to make a spacer, let me get you some measurements here on the thickness spacer that you need. So I already kind of tested this out first before I started the video, and it's going to require one of these spacers and 3 washers. And again, those of you who are just using spacers, or I'm sorry, just using washers, you can ignore this part. Just use 6 washers on either side of the bracket. But if you're making spacers, let me get you a measurement. So we are about 5/8 thick. So you're going to need 4 5/8 thick spacers. But with that out of the way, let's mount this light in here. So you got your adjustment knob or your adjustment nut at the top, and then your emblem upright. Okay, and we're gonna flip this on its side, and I'm gonna use these awesome spacers that I found with 3 washers. I'm gonna slide it in here between the bracket and the light, and I'm gonna take my bolt, slide it through the other side. Just like that. And simply start turning your bolt. Just like that. As a matter of fact, 3 washers is too much. I'm going to take 1 washer out. Go with 2 washers in this spacer. Give it more bite on the nut. It's a little better. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. The spacer and 2 washers. And I'm going to drop this nut here in the pod somehow. Just like that. And then do the same thing. Slide your washers on the inside. Squeeze the bracket together. Get that bolt started, just like that. And there we have it. So it's basically that easy. All right. That is all it takes to fit an awesome pod into your factory bracket. And the awesome part about this is you have full adjustability up and down. Look at that. You know, I suggest maybe putting a little bit of Loctite or something in there, so that way the bolts don't come loose on you. You know, with vibrations and bumps and things like that. But fully cranked down, you can see once you get your beam, you know, once you get these things aimed, you got your beam where you want it. I mean, this is pretty much cranked down all the way. I mean, these don't move easy, so it's pretty secure, right? And then last thing, wiring. Totally forgot about wiring. So Diode makes their D2 connector to H10 harness. All right, so this is this is a complete plug-and-play kit. I believe they're $11. You get both. You get two D2 to H10, which is what our fog light plug is, connectors. So plug it into the car, and that's it. So I'm calling this kit here plug and play, because it quite literally is plug and play, right? Since you retain the factory bracket, you just install your spacers, washers, bolts, and aim your light, slide it in like normal, and put your two T25 Torx in just like normal, and you have a stock setup, right? You get your full adjustability, you retain your factory bracket, and it looks like it belongs in that bumper. So guys, if you have any questions on this, feel free to drop some comments down below if you have any questions, and hopefully I can help assist you in answering any questions that you have. So with that, guys, let's check it out. Let's see what they look like on the Jeep, and let me know what you think of this setup here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have output shots for you guys because Diode Dynamics never sent me the connectors to make these work. So I'm still waiting on those to come in. I hope by Sunday or Monday they come in, and then I'll make another video of the output for you guys, because I know everybody wants to see what the output looks like. So I got you. Just gotta wait a few days, unfortunately. So with that, guys, let's check it out. Let's see what they look like installed on the Jeep.